We're back.
We are
Hi,
live.
guys. Just got through smoking off. I was wanting to ask the listeners too, like, if after listening to these, I wonder if weird things happen, because there's another podcast. It's called Two Girls One Ghost, and they said like their listeners, like they email them and they say, you know, after listening to some of these episodes, like a lot of weird stuff happens. And so I wonder if people just listen to these, like, I know in your car it's like loud, so it goes out through your speakers and everything. So I wonder if like some crazy stuff happens, like maybe at night too. That's why I try to release these at 3 a.m.
I know, man. Trying to get the max power on it.
I hear a lot of people talking about stuff like that these days. You know, I listen to several different podcasts, and one of them is Campfire. And, you know, he talks about, you know, sometimes, you know, things happen in his home after hearing some of the, you know, the stories that his listeners, you know, tell and stuff like that. And so he, you know, posed a question, said, you know, kind of like what you're saying, does anything happen, you know, when people listen to some of these, you know, stories? And a lot of his listeners, you know, of course, these are all non-natives, you know, saying, you know, they had experiences in their home after listening to their stories, or sometimes in their office while they're working, they'll encounter things. So the question was it because of the show, or was it because they made them aware of their surroundings?
That's a good one.
That's a good point.
And so I listened to that episode, and that was pretty cool. And then I listened to this other one. It's called Hillbilly Horror Stories. And, you know, they're kind of like what we're doing. You know, they do it in their bedroom, you know, him and his wife. And, you know, they tell, you know, spooky stories. And they do real good research, you know, on their podcast. I really like listening to them. But they start talking about how, you know, weird things start happening, you know, around their home, and theirs is a new home. You know, they built that home, and so, you know, he's starting to think that maybe, you know, some of these things are coming because they're talking about these things. But, you know, I'm a strong believer. You know, most of these things that we've talked about, you know, on this podcast, definitely, you know, they're around, and if you talk about them, they're definitely going to come around and, you know, cause some issues here and there. And I know I was cracking up. I was listening to one of your podcasts, Russell, and I think you was talking to somebody, you know, and you start hearing something, you'll start trying to explain, you know, it's like somebody outside screaming. Do you remember that?
There's been several of those.
Yeah. And so I think it's that Wolf podcast guy.
Classic Wolf. Yeah. Well, oh yeah, he sent me a story. I'll probably read it on here about the hoofer. But yeah, we were talking about Deer Woman, I think. And then he was like, I don't know, like he likes to be funny a lot. So he was trying to be funny, and then things started like happening like outside of his room.
No.
Then he said like the blinds were shaking, and then I don't know, he's always hearing crazy stuff, like when he starts talking about scary stuff.
You know, the episode before I came on, y'all, I think it was the doll episode. You know, I was sitting there. It's probably 2 a.m. And I didn't have to work the next day. I was like, how, you know, get to stay up extra late, and you got to a certain point, and I think it was, I can't remember what story it was. It might have been the story about the closet, the doll in the closet.
Yeah.
And one of the cabinets moved. And I'm like, what? I went and looked, and I said, and I, you know, like I said, I get these spidey sense, you know, I was like, something's off. So I'm sitting there again, and kind of just watching the movie I was watching, and I heard it again. It's like as if the cabinet just kind of opened barely and then closed back. And it did like 3 times. I said, Yeah, that's probably time to head to bed now, isn't it?
I'm probably the most superstitious out of the four of us. I get spooked way too easy. I don't say nothing I'm not supposed to. I don't,
Well, we just seen it when I was trying to bless you.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. I'm nervy. I'm the nerviest one out of all of us.
Man.
I've already, since started doing this,
He screamed.
I've already moved like 3 times. Nah.
It was like
I've always been aware of stuff like that, though. I mean, sounds in the house that aren't normal, and But I think since doing this, I think I've become even more aware. Just changes. Even sometimes we've talked about it. Just mentally, sometimes things seem to get harder, and I kind of struggle with that. And I've always had issues with that, but I don't know. Like I'm becoming more aware of it now. I know how to deal with it better. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I hear you.
I listened to this other podcast. It's called Ghost Stories, and he talked about scary movies. Do they have an effect on people? And they brought up a few other profound movies like The Exorcist and The Conjuring and stuff like that. And he had a guest on there that kind of put it in a perspective that he could understand. He was saying that that some of these movies, when they're starting to talk about demonic entities and they actually put the official name and the ceremony on camera, you're gonna have problems.
Yeah,
you're gonna have issues. And that's kind of the same thing, we've talked about on this show. You've named these guys, and then you got viewers that are out there watching this and listening to it. They might encounter some of those things, especially if they're already weak-minded. And what I mean by that is, if they're on substance abuse or they're highly depressed or they're just super sad, it kind of leaves them open, So to me, that makes sense. So when I was listening to those episodes, I started jumping up points. See what I mean? No. But, that was something that was always told to me, and, the thing I really liked, they were talking about that Exorcist movie, when they were making it, of course, a lot of those scenes, when it came to what they call that, Exorcist rite, or what do they call it, the procedure of getting rid of those demons. They start talking about things, and even on set, supposedly when they made that movie, bad things happen, and there was a lot of stories during that time when that movie came out, that even people that were showing those, that were in the projector room had weird encounters. And another story was about, I forget what was that Will Sampson movie that he did about
Poltergeist 2?
Yeah, Poltergeist 2. It was so bad that on the set, he had to come home and get some stuff and go back up there on that set. So
yeah.
And that's known. That's for real stuff. And it was because some of the things and where they were filming, it was just causing things to happen to some of those actors and actresses on set. But as that also prolonged, even like that little girl passed away, some kind of, give that credit to that movie. They were doing things they shouldn't have been, and I guess some of those other actors, they had bad luck. And
I think they were using actual skeletons too on some of those.
Correct.
Yeah, they were using actual skeletons. I'm like, that's maybe too far on that.
Yeah, I know it. So again, there's some things out there that maybe you ought to be cautious with. But me, I'm a big fan of horror movies. I watch all those ones. I was just watching one last night. I got spooked watching, what was it called, Ouija or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And they was hiding underneath my covers.
God.
slid that popcorn bowl over to the side. It was just shaking. No, I'm just kidding. But,
That Ouija board movie?
yeah.
Okay.
Have you seen it?
I've seen it on, I think it's Prime.
Yeah, it's good.
But I haven't seen it. Is it good?
Yeah, I liked
Did
it.
you like it?
I'm gonna have to slide y'all the Shutter password.
Oh, I have Shutter. Yeah,
Shutter.
yeah.
You had Shutter. It's all horror movies. Like
Yeah.
all the
For real?
Yeah. I had to slide you that password.
I don't have it either.
Yeah, I had to give that to y'all. But
They got it. Well, he was
you-
talking about something too on Shutter, but yeah, I'd like to check out Shutter. They
I mean-
always have a bunch of stuff.
well, that's where they got that that one movie I mentioned before, about the zombies and only affecting the non-natives.
Oh,
Blood Quantum.
Blood Quantum, yeah.
Yeah, that's on there. I mean, there's a lot of different movies. I mean, I think even the older Blob is on there. So like the old one.
The
So
original one?
yeah, I think
Black
so.
and white?
Steve
Yeah.
McQueen.
I think
I
so.
love that one.
Yeah,
That
it's
was
a good
cool.
one.
So yeah, they got all types of
the
stuff on
remake.
there.
Clear Cut was on there for
Yeah.
a while.
And they had probably my favorite one on there though has to be the summer of '84. You have to check. Yeah, I had to give y'all the password. It's about a kid and his friends, and they are investigating stuff, and they come across some revelations of their neighbors. So, I mean, not to give a movie. I guess it's not really a movie recommendation, but Shutter's definitely to check out.
Yeah. I had written like a little short script years and years and years ago. That was kind of like Rear Window, the Hitchcock film, but it was with kids.
Dang.
But like I have a whole pile of scripts that never, will ever see the light of day. But that was one. It was like
Hopefully it hasn't have any of those magazines you found in the last episode.
well,
No, I'm
there's
just-
always got to be a little bit of true stories.
Yeah, deeper, darker criminal ink.
Just walking back home with that stack.
Stack of vintage nasties.
Dang.
Got to get home.
I got work to do.
Well, on that podcast,
Research.
on that podcast, he was naming several different movies. Some of them I never even heard of. That people had issues. They were watching it, and things start happening in their home. But I think majority of those movies they had to deal with like demonic type things and
Yeah.
exorcist type things. And my understanding, majority of those, they would name these demon characters,
Yeah.
in these movies, and a lot of his listeners would call in and say, yeah, when I watched this movie, this happened, that happened, or worse, some of them start having bad luck and felt like they were possessed and they had to go to church and get
Yeah.
themselves taken care of. And I'm like, wow, I never even thought of that, and they were saying that Hollywood's bad about that. They just throw certain things together that shouldn't be out there, and sometimes the viewers are the ones that get the punishment, I guess you might say. And
Yeah.
and so a lot of those movies he listed, if I can remember correctly, I do know they were like demonic type movies. Like what was that one, The Exorcist?
The Omen.
Yeah, that was one
Oh,
of them.
yeah.
The
Well,
Exorcist,
I think they have a
Emily
documentary on
Rose.
that.
The Exorcist of Emily Rose.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
That was actually based on a true story that was, I think, like Germany or something like that. And they were even saying, during the filming of that, even though that they weren't in the original place, they were having issues there. And, there was other movies that, they named. I thought, man, that was blowing my mind. I was like, dang.
Yeah, there's a series on Shudder you should check out. It's called Cursed Films, and it talks about they take a film and they talk about it having a curse. They did Poltergeist. I know they did The Exorcist.
The Omen. I think
They did The Omen. There's a couple of others. I think there's a new season out too, which I haven't checked out. But
Dang, I want to find that and watch that. I'd like to watch that.
yeah, I'll give you my password off air.
Right now.
No, right now. The listeners want to hear it. No.
Now, I don't want to watch none of them nasty ones now. No,
Yeah, don't be jacking up my recently viewed queue now.
Nah,
I got them set just how I like
The
it.
algorithms.
I got those levels set just like I like them. So don't be jacking with my.
Big Nasty's favorites.
Bigfoot's
That's the
Wild
wrong
Weekend.
That's the wrong password. Man, you know I'd be bringing you the good stuff. Night of the Demon, Eyes of Fire.
Have you guys seen Empty Man? The Empty Man, I think. Have you heard of that movie?
I haven't.
I haven't.
It's okay. It's I don't know. I was on HBO Max, I think, and I just started watching it because I never seen it. But there's a few scenes like that are creepy, but it's pretty much like a cult following of this thing called the Empty Man, like an entity. And so I'm not gonna give it all away, but there's one part in there. Well, there's two parts, but the one part that like really caught my attention was it's in the beginning, and I guess they're on some mountaintop, and they're in the snow, and a guy falls through some rocks. Ends up it's actually the temple of the Empty Man, so he gets kind of possessed, I guess. And so they end up rescuing him, and they take him to this. They're lost, and it's snowing heavily, and they find this cabin out of nowhere. They break in, and they're trying to just squat out till the snow ends, till blizzard ends. And so there's like one part where this girl, I think she's dreaming. I don't know if it's a dream. I can't remember if it's a dream or not. But she wakes up, she looks around, the guy's gone, and then she goes outside, and it's still a huge blizzard. And then she's outside, and she sees like the dude way out in the distance, and she said, "Hey, come back," or whatever. What are you doing? And he's just standing there, and all of a sudden, it's moving closer, and then it starts running at her. It's not even him; it's like this giant like figure running at her, and she runs inside. And so I don't know, that night I like went to sleep, and I had the exact same dream as that scene. Only I was at my old house in Pawnee. I was in the backyard, and it was a little dude. Yeah. And it was like at a distance, and I was like, "Hey." Well, I didn't even say anything. I just seen it, but you could, like, in my dream, it was like the moon was shining. So, when the moon shines, you could vaguely see stuff. And I seen this like little figure, and I was just like staring at it, and I knew what it was, but I was just like, I didn't say anything. And all of a sudden, like, it took like a couple steps, and in my head, in my dream, I was like, should I run? But in dreams, like, my dreams are so vivid. Like, I get to the point where I just freeze, or I can't do anything right, and I don't know what to do. All of a sudden, it just starts running at me, and then I could see, like, it's like got old clothing on and stuff, long hair, and it just starts running after me, like running towards me. And I just stand there, and it's like about to hit me or whatever, and I wake up. And I was like, whoa. I was like, oh my God.
Speaking of dreams and kind of, those type of, I guess, we kind of talk, off air about, astral projecting and things of that nature. People kind of, equate that with, star people, aliens and things of that nature. And, a story that a relative of mine, a real close relative of mine, he was telling me that he had a real vivid dream one night. And in his dream he was basically, hopping fences and running, and he ran through some like freshly cut grass in a yard, and he did a bunch of stuff. And he woke up and there was grass in his bed. So I always wonder, kind of, what that relates to, if that's, if it's really you're just kind of in a day, you just really never know. But I thought that was really interesting, when it comes to that, when that equates to, alien abductions and things of that nature. And a lot of the origin stories of, our people that, when it comes to those types of beings,
Yeah. The thing that I always think about when people mention, star people, especially for Native Americans, that has a wide assortment of stories, for each tribe. A lot of tribes out there, they'll have that belief, or they have those stories, those creation stories, that they came from the stars. For example, Pawnees, their dance, everybody says they dance different, than everybody else, So I don't know about those Pawnees dancing that way, but, but they're the only ones I know that can say they dance like the stars. you know, and so that's how the stars move. That's how they move, you know, and then you've got, you know, even like some of Creek stories, traditional stories, you know, talking about like my tribal town, you know, we believe we came from the sun. You know, a burst of lightning came from that sun, hit this earth, made a crater, and from that crater came two beings come out of there. You had Red Town and White Town, War Town, Peace Town, you know, and that was the creation of our people, or my tribal town. And so, you know, again, you know, there's a lot of different stories out there. You know, I know Mr. Tiger asked me about, you know, gifts that these beings gave us, you know, and there's a lot of tribes out there that, you know, have ancient, what you call artifacts that they brought supposedly from the stars. You know, even the Osages, you know, they believe they're star people. They have a clan, I believe, you know, that, you know, specifies who they are, star people. You know, I might have that wrong, how they pronounce it, but, you know, they have it in all their brochures. So, you know, so again, you know, there's a lot of stories out there, you know, about star people and the gifts that they gave or, you know, sent here, you know, and I even heard someone long time ago talk about these tribes that have like roundhouses and the way they're built. If you look at them, of course they're round. Mm-hmm. And how does everybody always describe a saucer? You know,
Round.
And you know, things like that. You know, and when you hear those old ancient stories, you know, these tribal people, you know, they talk about, you know, these figures or those symbols. You know, you can't help but say, wow, you know, even, you know, there's tribes in the Southwest that, you know, believe, you know, they got these complex mathematical equation figures, you know, with their crops and everything, you know, and the way they built things and stuff like that. So those are old ancient stories, you know, and then you have some that believe that some of these things still come and visit, you know. Very seldom today do I hear tribal stories like that of them things coming down and visiting, you know, and long time ago, you know, a lot of tribes, they had those stories of talking with these visitors that came from the sky, you know, and I also understand that, you know, there was old writings from some of these churches that came to I don't know, convert these tribes. And, you know, when they would talk to these Indian folks, you know, that they would hear those stories about these beings that came from the sky. So they would tell them those were angels. But every one of these tribes had names for those things, you know. So anyway, those are kind of stories that, man, you don't hear anymore. I haven't, you know, in a while. I think the last one I've heard was like, you know, maybe 15 years ago. But, you know, again, you know, you look at some of these other tribes and some of their ceremonies, you know, you can't help but question, you know.
You know, you kind of think about what, you know, where that originated from, you know, and whatnot. But, you know, there was a kind of a, I guess you can say not a myth or maybe a legend or, you know, some type of origin story where, you know, back a long time ago before their removal, you know, in our tribal town and I guess in surrounding tribal towns at the time, you know, they noticed these beings were coming down from the sky and they would, you know, give knowledge to the people that were there. And sometimes those beings, you know, they just loved it down here. Is kind of how the story goes. Is so some of them stayed, you know. Well, after a while, they you know, they didn't really, like I'm trying to put, they didn't really like the direction of what the tribe was going as it got closer to removal. And the way that things were happening, they stopped coming. Now there are, now I don't know that, I can't speak on, what really happened, but they say that those beings stopped coming to see, the people that were there, and they left these plates, these titanium plates. My grandpa told me, he said those plates are still around. He always wondered. He passed in December, in 2021, and I remember him, about a couple years ago, just really, sitting there like, man, I wish I really knew where those plates were. He said they knew where they were about 3 generations ago, and they were in certain houses, and they were designated to certain people. And he'd always say that. He said, man, I really wish I could find those plates, or multiple, because they were given out to different tribal towns, and so. I always am so fascinated with with that kind of those you hear those origin stories and things of how how things came to be, and when it comes to star people, or I guess the term now is aliens and things of that nature. I always wonder what else is out there that maybe someone knows. If so, if anyone out there knows a story or two about those, definitely let us know. Let us know in the comments, or send a message, because these things are very interesting to me. Anyways,
the only thing I really know, like I think it was you were talking about the Southwest, like Pueblo and Navajo. Isn't there rocks out there though that have some type of like pictographs or petroglyphs of like these really elaborate like stories or images that just at that time that knowledge wouldn't be around, or that what I mean, like that technology or whatever, or even like the look of the figures, and they do have that kind of generic gray look, I guess they call them grays, carved on the rock. And the only other story I ever heard, and I may have been in Mexico, was the Star Child skull, where they
with the elongated.
Yeah, but it's even larger than like a normal skull or whatever. But they were talking about that a star person had come down and integrated within the tribe. Same thing what you were talking about.
Yeah, and that's so intriguing to me. Like I wonder who's walking around here with alien DNA.
It's got to be out there. Ancestry, they put the lockdown on that.
I know, man. Somebody out here, they went and did their 23andMe, man. It's like unknown origin. Yeah, that'd be kind of crazy.
I know mine came back part gravy. No, I'm just kidding.
Part
meat gravy.
Well, like I was saying, there's always different, stories, about these, like I was saying, some of the Indian folks, they believe that they came from the skies. They have those origin stories. But then, like with everything, like I've always said, good Indians had a good philosophy of good and evil. So I'm kind of scared to tell these ones, but I'm getting ready to go ahead. So if you guys better turn up the volume so you can really hear this one. No.
Better light that cedar.
Yeah.
No, this was a long time ago when Muskogee people were back in Alabama and Georgia, and around near that Okmulgee, what they call Okmulgee River area, down in that area. They have an old story, that this fire came from the sky and hit the ground, and out of there came this being. And they have a name for it. Those old timers, they had a name for it, but they was always scared to say it, because they said, if that thing comes around, it's going to take you. And they described it as a big eyeball that floated through the air, and it could move fast. But, you know, when it captured you, you know, it kind of put you in a trance, and that would be it. You know, and they would use a certain kind of stone to kind of, how you say, protect their village or their area, you know, if that thing was ever around. But they used to say, you know, this thing would make a kind of a windy whistle. And that's when you would know it was kind of close. And this was probably mid 70s, around I would say Okima area. There was an old Indian church out that way, you know, and they used to say that there was one of those beings that used to roam around there. And one of those churches had we call it a vacation Bible study or something, you know, where all the kids come down there, study about the good word, you know. And of course, you know, they said that it was, you know, kids will be kids, you know, everybody's supposed to be asleep, you know, everybody. They used to make them sleep underneath those arbors or in those camp houses, you know, wherever they had room. These group of kids, you know, they knew there was a pond near that church because they used to do all their baptisms there in that pond. Anyway, they waited till all the counselors went to sleep. And anyway, story goes that, you know, of course, a group of these guys, probably about 6 or 7 of them, they snuck off into the woods to go swimming at that pond, you know, and they was in there, you know, splashing around and, you know, having a good old time, hollering around, and they began to hear this eerie whistle coming from the woods. And it was getting closer and closer, you know, and it started freaking some of those guys out. You know, these were young guys, you know. I think some of them were like 8. The oldest one was like 14 or 15. Anyway, and they varied in age, so they start hearing this noise, you know, and everybody always heard all these spooky stories. Back then, Grandpa used to really tell stories, you know, and so they knew kind of, you know, what was up. So some of those younger guys said, you know, I'm scared. I think I'm go back. You know, that don't sound right. You know, that noise, and it's getting closer, and it's roaming around in those woods. So we better head back. You know, so they jumped out of the water, and of course the oldest one, you know, it was a girl. You know, she was kind of mean spirited, I guess you might say. She goes, oh, it's just, you know, just a noise, probably a bird or something like that. And they said, well, regardless, you know, we need to get back. So they began to sneak back, you know, to the campgrounds, you know. And of course, that older one, you know, she was wanting to be mean, I guess. So she'd go run ahead and jump out and scare them, you know, make them scream. And she just got tickled out and then took off, you know, and hide again, you know, and jump out and really, you know, scare one of them, make them all scream, and, you know, and pretty soon they was getting back close to the campgrounds. Anyway, they said the rest of them, they just ran because they knew she was going to jump out and try to scare them, but way in the distance they heard that girl scream real loud, you know, real high-pitched scream, you know, and they said, oh, she's just trying to scare us again, you know. So they took off, and they all went in where they were designated to sleep, and they all went to sleep. And next morning, you know, they woke up, it was breakfast time, started getting ready for Bible study classes and stuff, and you know, everybody they start doing those head counts, you know, roll call, I guess what you say, and, you know, she's ended up missing. And so, anyway, long story goes, everybody was aware that it was her that was missing. Of course, none of those kids wanted to admit, they was, out, out and about, And so, the church, called in, the local law enforcement, told the folks, that girl was missing and, stuff like that. And anyway, make a long story short, they started looking for her, and of course those kids, they started getting kind of scared because those police kept coming around asking questions, taking notes. And finally, when the youngest one got scared, finally broke the silence, started telling everything, and even telling stuff she wasn't supposed to tell. But anyway, she said, what happened. And, of course, back then, those deacons kind of were knowledgeable, of that story of that being. And they kind of knew. And so, anyway, they contacted some other relatives, and, they went out in search for her, and my understanding, they had an encounter with that thing. And they was told it was kind of like a short little encounter or battle with it. And anyway, from that point on, those elder men knew what it was, and again, they described it like those old ones described it. It was like a flying big old eyeball type thing. And anyway, they went back, and, of course, they never found that little girl, but, those Indians knew what took her.
Mm-hmm.
And so, off in that area, long time ago, they had stories about those kind of things, and not only that, but they would call, some tribes call them jack-o'-lanterns. Those are those lights, and it's kind of the same premise. That's, kind of the same story, if you hear that origin of those type of entities. And so, again, I know there's stories out there like that, not only from Creeks, but, from all these other tribes, especially the ones that have those jack-o'-lantern stories.
Yeah.
Could that fly like overhead too? Like maybe or just kind of that level?
My understanding is,
Fly anywhere?
Yeah, it kind of flew. I mean, they just described it as it floating.
Mm-hmm.
And it could. I was even told that sometimes it was known to look in people's homes, like on second floor and stuff, so, and there was a certain way that they would used to, like I was telling you, doctor those homes, to keep that thing at bay, and things like that. So,
So they're saying, I'm sorry, go ahead. Oh, I was going to say about the spook light. So it's what you're talking about. I've heard it referred to as like a spook light. Is that what you're talking about too?
Correct. I mean,
Okay.
They used to, kind of describe it the same thing. But, if you were ever able to really look at it, you'll see that eyeball.
Yeah. Because I had that story, I think I've told on here before, about my brother and I deer hunting that one time back when he was going to school up at NEO up around Miami. And he was sitting in a tree stand, and I was just kind of sitting on the below, But anyway, but yeah, we watched a blue orb like that, kind of float through the woods, and it hit that game trail, and then it went right up, and this was like at 4 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning, pitch black, because you're out in the middle of the woods, man, and I mean, and you're under trees, and there's no light, and I can tell you, we both were like, we were the happiest when I saw that sun coming up because I was ready to get out of
You
there.
all spooked out, huh?
Yeah, and that was close enough for me. But that's the only kind of story I have.
You know, I've had family members. Like I said, I'm from Tahlequah, Cherokee Nation country, and out by Holbert, there's been one that the Cherokee elders have been talking about for decades. It's like a little flame. Sometimes it's blue. I've heard blue. I've heard regular fire. But this story, that I'm going to tell now is from my dad. He he's always hitting those back roads of out by Holbert, kind of headed towards Wagner. And it was kind of getting evening time. And he was heading home, and he was taking a back way there because it just was quicker to get to our house. And he kind of stopped for a minute and kind of looked out on the field. And he could see it was almost like it was bobbing, but it was a flame, and it was bobbing. It wasn't hitting the ground. It was just, and he could see it all the way across his pasture. Another explanation for that would be, I've heard, especially, with Cherokees, I heard, that those flames can lead you to treasure. That's another thing I've heard, when it comes to those lights. And you'll be met with, it could be anywhere from an upright walking dog. It could be, you lose your mind, I mean, it could be just about anything if you follow that light to where because it's making rounds. It goes to a certain point and makes rounds. But I've heard those stories of like a jack-o'-lantern type, thing, for, forever, my entire life. But then, another thing that's kind of, I guess it's kind of coming to my mind now is, like out there in Eufaula, kind of by the grounds where my travel, my travel or my grounds are at, and there's a road. It's a dirt road now. It's being, it's gonna be a housing development there, which is terrible. But I guess that's the way it goes nowadays, I suppose. But you can see a light. It's just it's like a flashlight. It's the middle of this pasture, pitch black, dark, and I've had a lot of family members out, in Eufaula area, see this light. It's like as if it's just bouncing across the pasture. So, who knows what those are at the end of the day? I mean, we kind of have some idea of what it is, but when it comes to those spook lights, I would never. I'm like you. I'm good. I'm good.
It's crazy to talk about that whistling. My cousin last night had a story. Andrew Warrior, shout out to you. The Scuzz, that's what I call him. But he was talking about.
I thought it was a new beast that we were talking about.
Scuzz.
I haven't heard this one.
The new monster.
Yeah,
the
new
Scuzz.
monster.
No,
yeah.
That's not Scuzz. That's what I call him. But he was talking about being in White Eagle. And him and his girlfriend are walking. I guess they're walking home to someone's house, and it was about 2 a.m. And he said that there was something over them, like flying over them, but it was like whistling, and it was like following them. And he said they got home and they didn't try to freak out. They just thought, no, it's weird, like something's just either following us or just flying over us, and it's whistling, like a weird whistle. And then he said they got ready for bed, and they went in the room, turned the lights off, going to go to sleep, and they heard that same whistle in the room with them. And they turned the lights on, nothing was there.
That's crazy. I guess when you bring that that story up, this is back in my investigation days when I was kind of like I said, before I quit. I was looking into a lot of stuff, and I was trying to find these spook lights. This is like I said, I was probably in high school, and one day we saw this light from our backyard, because the way our house comes, my parents' house, is you come up the driveway. There's these 4 buildings, and then the backyard. Well, for one night there was like a flash. I remember I'm a very light sleeper when it comes to certain things, and I woke up and I looked. I was like, I don't know what that was. Whatever. Next morning there was this about. This is crazy, but probably the size of a very, very large pepperoni pizza. But it looked like someone had put down a big old pizza pan. You ever see those big old pizzas? It looked like somebody had just like made that the hottest pan and threw it on the grass because there was dead grass under this certain area. It was real weird. I never saw nothing, but it was as if like it was like a light. It was like came down real hard and then came out the next day. And like I said, it was perfect too. It was a perfect circle. It was
crazy.
weird.
Yeah, my mom, and I mean, when you were talking about your story about down in Tahlequah near Holbert, my mom, this is probably like early 80s. She was going to school down in Tahlequah to get her teacher certification or whatever, or master's degree or something. I don't remember. But her and my grandma was coming back from Tahlequah one night, and they swear up and down that a light followed them on a road. And the same thing, heard a whistling sound, and she's like, they kept trying to look at it, and my grandma, they were trying to look at it, and they couldn't. They just saw a light. They didn't know like the shape. It was just a light that followed them, and then she said it just went right over the top of the hood of the car and just disappeared. But same thing, like a whistling sound. But yeah, I forgot all about that story till I heard you telling that one in Tahlequah coming back. But yeah, that was probably in the early 80s. I was just a kid, and I just remember them. My mom swears up and down, like, she's like, I don't know if it was a helicopter or UFO or whatever, but she said it was just a light. All they saw was a light and was following them, and it went over the hood of the car and then just took off.
Yeah, I mean, you bring that up, got me into, thinking about another story. We were coming home on the back way from Wagner to OK. There's a road that goes by there, and it goes by a cemetery, and then it's train tracks that kind of follow the road. And we were coming back from Blake Shelton at the BOK. This is probably 2014, and we're driving, and I noticed this light coming up from behind us. It was coming like really fast. It was because the road is 65 miles an hour, and this thing was coming a lot faster than that, because you could see it far away because it was a straight shot in the road. It was real far away, but all of a sudden it was like right up on us. And I couldn't, it was kind of a weird in between, like it was so close to us in the car that you couldn't quite see if it was two lights or one light. And we got to a certain point in the road, and it just like, when we kept driving, and we're like, I'm in the back seat like, man, what is that? And they're all like bebopping along, listening to music, and I'm like, hang on a second, as I hit the music, or something coming up on us real fast. I thought maybe we were getting pulled over or something. It's kind of about 10 o'clock at night. And it got real close to us, and then we got to a certain point in the road, and it stopped. And it just disappeared. Like it was gone. Like nothing, there was no lights. And like there was no tail lights. When someone turns, you see those red tail lights. There was nothing. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that was, Who knows what it could have been.
I know. Yeah, I was like thinking. I mean, my mom was telling me that story when I was a kid. The only thing I could think of to like, and of course that scared me too as a kid, was Close Encounters, like where he's at that railroad track, and that bright light flashes in his cab of his truck, and like all the crazy instruments. That was enough. Like I said, I've always been a jumpy kid, and so I was just like, I don't want to hear that, man. That scares me. But now I wish I would have paid more attention to that story.
Man. Well, like I was saying, there's a lot of tribes that have, these kind of beings and stories. One that I always like to hear. Again, I was always blessed to, do a lot of traveling, and one of the stories that I love to hear are those Canadian stories. And this story took place like in the late 70s, maybe early 80s. My understanding, in Canada, at that time, it probably wasn't highly populated like it is today, and people still did the hitchhiking quite a bit, from reservation to reservation to towns, and that was kind of like the major way of transportation. But anyway, this was a family friend, and he was telling this story that he was going to another reservation. Him and a couple of guys, they were walking and hitchhiking, trying to get to this other reservation and around Alberta, Canada. And they were going through this mountain area, and they was always told, be careful, watch out, what you do, and always stay close to the road. And these guys, when they would want to stop and camp, they would kind of go a little ways off the road, so they could, wouldn't be woken up by, the traffic or whatnot. Anyway, they walked a little distance from off the road to build their camp. And they said, of course, they set up camp and, ate a good meal and, started going to sleep. And, they start seeing, these lights kind of dancing around out there, and to them, they thought it was kind of like a flashlight, type lights. They just kept kind of going in and out, doing those crazy 88s, you know what I mean? And anyway, they didn't think nothing of it. They thought, well, it's way off in the distance, not gonna bother us. So one of them slept in the tent. The other two guys, they had a backpack. They slept outside, sleeping bag, and they slept outside, by the fire. And I guess one of those guys got up and said he had to go use the restroom, so he was going to walk off, and that one said, well, just be careful, there's all kinds of animals and stuff out here, and it could get you, and so he said, I got a rifle, so I'll be all right. So he went out, and wasn't too long, they seen those lights again, and they were moving fast this time. And I guess that guy walked quite a ways away, they saw those lights kind of go over there and intersect him. And of course, he said that he began to scream. And those guys were kind of looking for their weapons that they had. I think, a couple of them had, hand pistols and stuff. And they was looking around for it, and they got it, and they was running towards, where he was at, because they thought maybe he was getting attacked by a bear or mountain lion or something like that. But as close as they got to him, the screams got even louder. It was just horrifying, type scream. And then his scream began to go up in the sky, and it said he went all the way up, and then it just disappeared. It just faded out. So, around in those areas up that way, they used to tell a lot of stories like that, for those hitchhikers. If you can go out, they had a lot of spooky stories like that. So, I don't know. I always thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. That is a good one.
Did you had a story about...
Do what?
I'm sorry. You had a story, though. Didn't you see some orbs or spook lights?
Well, last night, didn't we see some in the sky? Last night we were coming back from Oto, and we were on the turnpike, and I noticed it. It was like this bluish light, kind of. I thought it was a star, but there was no other stars out because it was kind of cloudy, and it was right. I seen it, but I didn't think much of it. And then she's seen it, and I was like, yeah, I seen it, but I didn't say anything. And then as soon as she said she's seen it, it it disappeared. And then we were looking for it, and I was like, well, is it a star? Is it a plane? Is it a whatever? It's a Superman, but
it's a bird. It's a plane.
But anyways, we were looking around for it, and I was like, it's probably nothing. And then, get back to driving, and as soon as I forget about it, I look up again. It's there, and it's brighter, then it gets dimmer, and it's so weird. It gets brighter and dimmer, but it's in that same spot. But it's as if it just, because I know how fast those are. I've seen them in the daytime too in New Mexico, and in the daytime though, you can see the silver. It's like a little ball, and it just if you look close enough, sort of, you could see it it's kind of spinning. But I don't know, it's always weird because personally, I think when you see them, they can see you too. Personally, I think that and that's why because I seen them in Mexico in the daytime, and when I noticed them, I would look at them, and then as soon as it feels as soon as I see it, it would just it would disappear or something, or have a cloak of some sort, or just go away as fast as possible. But yeah, we seen that last night, and I seen it again, and finally it went away, and we just never seen it again. And yeah, it was like a greenish, bluish, like light, but it was like you could tell it was getting dimmer and brighter. It wasn't a star. I know what a star is. I know what a plane is. It wasn't. It was just like right there in that one spot, and then it would like it would disappear, and it would be there again. So it was really weird, but I wouldn't think much of it. When we got home, I just went to sleep.
You know, I had been watching this show. You know, I feel like everyone knows what Skinwalker Ranch is out there. You know, on kind of the Ute reservation. I think it's kind of a little bit on. It's like in between the Navajo reservation and the Ute reservation, and you know, there's a highway out there. It's like Highway 666 is what it's known as, and I had a lady actually she's a Muskogee Creek. She was out at my facility, and she started telling me the story. She's like, "Hey, I want to tell you this story. You know, just random. You know, just kind of like, hey, walked up. Hey, I want to tell you this story. I guess she might have heard me telling stories before, but when she was a little girl, they were out there. They had visiting some family out there, and you were driving on that highway, and that highway is known for lights. You know, going over the road and." They were driving along, and you know, she's reading this book, and you know, her parents are up in the front, and all of a sudden she sees this light just come up right over them, you know, and it like hovered like right above the car, and it was like shining, and it was, she seemed as if her parents didn't notice it at first. It was like it was just only she could see it, and so she told me, she's like, yeah, I got so scared, I was like, I had to jump up in the front seat with my parents, and you know, I could tell in her face she was real, like it really kind of shook her, because she kind of was telling me that that bothered her, because you know, it bothered her to an extent where she don't really like talking on that type of stuff, and you know, she was telling me stories about, you know, when they were out there, that there's a legend out there about a guy that has I guess he was doing something when he was alive, and he got hit by a car, and he had a paper like he was chasing somebody or something in the middle of the road, or he was trying to flag somebody down or some. I can't remember the legend, but they were out there, and I guess her one of her family members actually ran over the ghost of the guy. The thing was trying to flag him down. He goes, "What is that guy doing?" You know, and kind of moved, you know, screeched and went through the guy, and the guy was gone, and they stopped, and there was nobody there. You know, so it's just weird, you know, weird kind of supernatural things on the road. And that light, you know, it is real interesting. You know, when we talk about the spook lights and you know, kind of what's going on out there on those reservations, you know, with Skinwalker Ranch, you know, I've been watching the show, and they've been finding like these different readings, like radiation readings, but it's like in the sky. So basically what they did is they pinpointed 3 different it was like in a triangle, and they got it up to about a mile high. So there's some type of thing going on with some type of something a mile high above this ranch. And every time they tried to do a reading on it, on this meter, the batteries would die like instantly. As soon as they hit that mile mark, it would die. So, you know, I always wondered, you know, and I've heard legends, you know, the Utes and the Navajo, they had beef going on, and they curse certain lands to the other side, and that could be what that is, you know. But I just find it interesting, you know, that, you know, there's all these all this lights going on out there, especially with it, you know, with those 2 reservations being so close to each other. I just find that so interesting, you know, when it comes to that certain sect of land out there.
Tyler, I know you have some UFO. Got abducted.
Nah.
No, I'm just kidding. No,
I got
kidding.
nothing. I already told all my stories.
Have you guys been to New Mexico?
Yeah.
I've always wanted to go.
Have
I've
you?
never been.
When I moved there, like I was having like vivid dreams of aliens, and I remember the one I had. The one I had was I told it on another podcast, but it was when I moved there. No, because like when I was younger, like you, I was scared of being abducted because I'd watch Unsolved Mysteries with my grandma. And there'd always be like these old stories of these people like, yeah, you know, I was abducted, and they'd tell their story about being abducted. And it was interesting to me, but it was so scary. Like every time we'd go out somewhere out like in Red Rock, nothing out there. And I always be looking at the sky, like just freaked out. But, you know, older, I forgot about it. But going out, like I moved out there, and I remember it was like maybe my first couple of weeks, I had this like dream where I was in this building, this tall building, and every room was the same. Like every floor was the exact same thing. It was like just a floor of doors. It was a hallway and doors. And then I remember I was just walking through it, and all of a sudden like these grays, the gray aliens like popped out, and I was like freaked out in my dream, and then I just started running. And I remember running up like all like the stairs and going through different floors, and there was like more and more coming after me. Finally, you know, I don't know, I had to fight. And so I remember one grabbed me, and I just remember like throwing a punch, and my hand went right through their head. Boom, you know, I went right through their head. And then in my dream I was like, oh, you know, they're that weak, I guess. So I just started like throwing punches, and I woke up, and I was like, whoa, like that was crazy. Like I've never had an alien dream like that before. And then I didn't tell anybody, but I went to orientation, and then maybe a couple of nights later, I think, it was the exact same dream, same thing. And I knew like I was dreaming, but I don't know what to do, you know. Same thing happened. It was like a replay of it. So they popped out, and I ran up the stairs, and I remember like going to this one floor, but it was a different floor now. Like it was spread out, and there was doors like everywhere though. And it was like a game level, like I don't know, it was just like really new to me, and I didn't know what to do. And then there was more coming out, and I was like, you know, threw a punch, and I broke my hand, and I was like, oh God, you know, and they grabbed me, and I was trying to like, and they were strong this time, like they were really strong. And then I remember waking up, and I was like, wow, it was really weird. And it was like as if like, I don't know if it's real or not, but it's as if like maybe they were in my head, and I knew like this guy's like, you know, he knew he could like maybe mess with us or whatever, but now like, you know, let's mess with him. And then I told my buddy I was going to orientation with, I was like, yeah, man, I had this crazy dream, and I told him the entire thing, and he said, man, he's like, they're probably scouting you, dude. He's like, 'cause you're not from here. Like you're not from here, and you know, you don't know too much about what's out here. He's like, I wouldn't be surprised if like you get abducted. I was like, what? I was like,
God.
I was like, whoa. I was like, why me though?
You better sleep on your back.
Hey man, I got
probing you.
Like, whoa.
They gonna hold that. The locals gonna hold you down and make sure you are abducted.
Sacrifice.
God dang. Boy.
That's crazy.
But yeah, he was like, that's crazy though. He was like, I've heard of stuff like that. Like they just, like they're trying to get to know like your reactions, I guess. But out there, like there's at that school, there's like a lot of stuff out there that, you know, there's like some students that have passed away. And then there's like a shadow man that jumps from roof to roof at the family housing. And I mean, there's just like crazy stories out there. And I told you that one about that baby.
Yeah, the panther.
Yeah, that we thought was a panther.
Yeah.
That one dude was like, let's go find out. Let's go help that baby. I was like, bro, you're crazy. Like, it's 1 a.m.
Yeah, I think that area is pretty cool, though. You know, those tribes around there, they have unique creation stories. They're not like anyone else's creation stories. I think those are pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially those Dene people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they believe they came from, I want to say, from the ground. You know, they dug their way up, you know, and came popping out, you know. And so I said, dang, that's crazy. So every time I see those Navajo people, I really look at them. No. I said, dang, you do look like a, no.
God, I was wondering why your skull was elongated.
I got those eyes like that, boy. I said, dang, look like ant. No, I'm just kidding. I ain't scared of them. But
Were we at that one time when it was like recently, but there's like a hill with lights on it? Is that some tribe?
oh, me? You talking about me?
Yeah.
Oh, I was down in Paw country,
Is that spook lights?
and that they have a spook. They have three areas you can see those spook lights at, and we went to one, and man, that was crazy. We actually seen it. This area that they took us, or we went to, and or showed us to. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. It wasn't like what I had expected at this one. It was more like a mist type light. Wasn't circular, but it did change colors, and it also made noise. And
Was it like a hum, or was it just what type of? I guess I'm just curious.
kind of like a humming type, singing type thing, and we tried to figure out if it was like a reflection off of something, or maybe it was car lights or something like that. So we drove around the area, and we didn't see no like metallic anything that would cause that, or even our car lights didn't recreate that or anything like that. But yeah, there's a place up there, and you can actually Google that area, and it'll take you straight there. And I guess a lot of people go there, and I was told that they got a lot of news articles and stuff like that written in that place, and I definitely say that was a for real place. I mean, you can actually see it. So like I said, I was just curious. I was kind of wanting to run out there and see if I could no, but
It envelope you.
everybody could don't do it, guy, don't do it.
I'm gonna run through it like a sprinkler.
Out there in a ghillie suit, waiting.
No, I was gonna jump out, boogie out, pounce on it, boy. But anyway, but yeah, it was pretty interesting. So it was pretty cool. I'll definitely have to.
Do they have an explanation for that down in Quapaw, or is that just like a thing they do?
My understanding. Well, there's 3 different stories because there's 3 different areas, and one of the area they think it has to do with LPs. And
That's a whole other episode.
That's a whole other can of worms on that one.
And the other 2, they said, are just kind of, well, one of them they think someone passed away, and it's the person that passed away, it's their lantern that they're bringing, and the third one is just, they think it's like a spirit type entity, and that's the one we went to because I didn't want to deal with no LPs or something I couldn't handle, Not that I was scared or anything like that.
No.
But anyway, and they told me that third one, you're guaranteed to see it. Those other 2, it's kind of iffy, and so we went to the one that we definitely would, probably see something, and we did. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
That is cool.
So it was very interesting. I tried to catch that noise, because I didn't think anybody would ever. It's hard to explain that kind of noise. But
is it like a synthetic? I'm talking about, like a synth type sound.
It was just, like I said, it just sounded like something was kind of humming or whistling, kind of combination of the 2. I mean, it was just real eerie, though. And
how far away were you?
I'd say probably about 40 feet away.
That's
close enough.
Yeah, that's pretty close. That's almost too close.
So
5 feet away.
Me, I'd be in the car in the backseat.
Hey, roll the window down.
Well, I tried to get, close enough I could, figure out what this was. Because I talked to some of the people that was around there, and some of them had theories it was gas, or it was, something like that. But, even like if it was natural gas, I don't think it was, because I did take a lighter out there to see. I said, if it's natural gas, But
Some bad meat pies.
I know.
Man,
I was ready to blow myself up, but after I thought about it, I thought, dang, I could have blew everybody up, boy. But that was like a leak, in the ground.
Well, let's see.
It's like at the end of Christmas Vacation.
did you even
He's
hesitate
out
when
there.
you turned the lighter on? Did you even hesitate? You just said, "All right, let's try it."
I thought it was a brilliant idea at the time, but then after I, went back.
Let's
and,
light this gas leak.
See, that's how hardcore I am to prove that these things are paranormal. So, but afterwards I thought, dang, I could have, if that was natural gas.
And they let you do it.
It would have been game over.
They're all back.
All
like,
right,
look at him out there with that lighter.
It's like, hey guys, I'm getting ready to do it, and you look behind everybody's by the car.
So anyway, I mean, it's I go that much for you guys, for my listeners and viewers. That's how I roll.
Puts himself in harm's
Savage.
way. It is, man. That was,
I mean, he laid his head on the desk, and it was a ghost. What was it?
oh yeah.
You fell asleep
fell
in the chair.
In the haunted room.
That house was notoriously haunted, and he fell asleep in there.
It
God,
was cool in there though. Boy, I tell you what, I was hot, boy.
Did you have any dreams in there when you took that luscious nap?
Oh no, I was out cold.
Yeah.
I wasn't dreaming nothing. It was out of order. That's all I knew.
That lemonade.
Yep, that lemonade knocked me out, boy.
Oh yeah, you had that lemonade.
Yeah, she said, here, drink this.
I forgot. Yeah,
He's like, all right.
she's like, oh yeah, here you go. He's out.
Yeah.
30 seconds later.
Yep.
Didn't even
How long
taste
was
the
you?
antifreeze.
How long were you out? I can't remember. How long were you out?
I don't know, it was a little bit. I know it was longer than 20 minutes.
They're all closed up. He's like, hey.
Yeah, you wake up, no one's there. You're just in that haunted room by yourself. Man, God.
He would have stayed.
The ghost just
Yeah,
making
you
noise
would
as you
have.
sleep.
Yeah.
How come he's not scared? This man's a legend. He just
got
sleep.
burnt
Don't you know
up,
who that
that's
is? That's Honka Hill.
He's sleeping through our scare.
Oh man.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
I want to go to Quapaw though. The spook lights.
I definitely would recommend. If you do go, let me know. I'll go with you.
Do you have to know people to, or is it like a, I mean, you got to like know somebody that knows where that's at and like what time those show up? Because
Actually, you can just Google it on your phone. And
Just
it'll take
show up?
Yeah, it'll take you right there, and
You can go anytime.
you can go anytime.
Anyone, anytime.
I just didn't know if it was like a ending thing, or if it's just like anybody can go out there and do that, or both.
I believe anybody, because like I said, I talked to those people at the casino and at their tribal complex about it. They're the
Yeah.
ones that told me. It was one of those ladies that were, I think she's their NACPRA officer.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember her name. I think it was like Carrie Wilson or something like that. She told a story about them on that Instagram page I got, and she was the one educating me about those 3 locations, and she told me the one to, if I really wanted to see it, go to this one. Those other 2, that one with the LPs, you had to do certain stuff, and they might show up. And
LPs?
Oh, my God.
So
Nope.
anyway, I said, well, okay. So
Nope.
I didn't have a lot of resources at that time, so or otherwise I probably would have went to the LP one.
Yeah.
But
That's strong medicine.
I would have tried that out. But if you go, let's go do the LPs.
Let's go.
Y'all gonna have to. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to do some things before, but yeah.
See, man, now it gave me goosebumps. Just
Man,
now,
I-
just
my-
thinking
my whole-
about
that- see,
bro.
that-
just you
I just-
pointing to me and saying,
Tyler, it's on you.
just got me
Tyler, make the
goosebumps.
decision. I mean,
If you have to.
I'm down. I'm down. I know we're gonna do some stuff in Hominy, so I think I'll test my fate on that. I'll come out of retirement for y'all. No,
So I'll be sitting in the car. No.
I'll be watching you guys from the grounds.
how's it going out there, fellas? Y'all doing all right?
That walkie-talkie.
Y'all see anything yet?
He'll be at the, what they call that, central unit? Or
Oh, God.
The command. I'm holding down the fort.
Hey, guys, I do see something behind you guys.
That's right.
Run, Tyler, run. No.
I'll be holding down pod quarters.
Yeah, I'll let y'all get mugged in the night, man. I'll let y'all do that. But no, yeah, no, I'll come out of timer for that. You know, I'll have to, you know, wear my my Depends and do what I need to do. You know, 'cause,
I would like to see that though. I ain't gonna
yeah,
lie.
that'd be cool.
It'd be cool to see. Yeah, I mean, just hang
Now
out.
the LP one, I don't know.
No,
man.
not that
That's-
No, that one's from about 100 feet away, and just someone point to me where it's at.
Yeah, that's too much for me.
Well, I mean, I guess. Well, I'm not even. I was gonna tell a story, but now we'll save that one for another occasion.
Yeah.
Is there a certain time you need to be there? Like, or is it just any time at night?
Just anytime at night.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can just show up and it's there.
Wow.
The weird thing though, the closer you get to it, I mean, it kind of distances itself. You know, so
Well, probably when he sees you coming at it with the lighter.
that too.
Whoa, whoa. Man, I'm just out
Whoa,
here
this guy-
floating.
You do know I can burn this place to the ground now. Come on.
He's coming
Back
at me
up,
with a
sir.
lighter. Here comes Chris.
I was chasing them. like
Going
that,
the other way.
well. Come here, guy. Come here.
I'm just out here chilling, man.
Well, I just wanted to prove it wasn't no natural gas, you know, and I proved that point. Now, whatever it is, I don't know. I can't say that, but I know it ain't natural gas.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Well, you'd smell it too, though. You know?
Yeah, you would be able to smell that
smell
gas
that
too.
Well, actually, on natural gas, that odor that you smell,
That's true.
they add that.
That's true. I forgot about that.
And that's why I did what I did, but
Yeah.
you know, now that I thought about it, that was crazy of me to do that.
Let me ask you this: did you use one of those like actual cigarette lighters, or did you use the ones with the long end?
the long.
Oh, okay. So
the-
you were safe about 5 feet.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're all right. You would have been all right. Hopefully.
Let's do an event there.
We'd probably have to ask those quapaws.
Oh yeah.
If we do an event there. So, but I'm down for it. I don't know who to ask.
Tyler?
but they got a King hotel. I know your kids and your wife would love that. Boy, sitting in the pool,
That's true.
eating them sandwiches, and
Casino.
Yeah.
casino, and all kind of.
Get that 401k.
My life insurance.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my wife could take a life insurance policy out.
You can go ahead and donate to the cause over there at the casino.
It's a beautiful casino. I'll tell you that, though. I mean, it's really,
Yeah.
really done up good, and it's Indian-fied up in there. So crack me up. As fancy as that place is, they got one microwave per floor. I said, dang.
The only expense they spared.
I know it. I said, dang.
We said at communal bathrooms or something like that. That'd be kind of crazy.
Yeah. I said, nope.
I'm gonna put my food in there.
All right. Well, let's wrap this one up.
Yeah, I'm at Skoden_cinema on Instagram, and we got the Facebook page. I promise I have 2 episodes. I've just been lazy this summer, to be honest with you. I got 2 episodes in the can of that, and I just haven't put them together yet, and I've just been lazy, and I'm sorry. I have no other excuse in that. But I also have another podcast that's coming out towards the end of August, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, called Pump Action Podcast as well, where a buddy of mine, we talk about some of our favorite 70s, 80s, 90s, early aughts action movies.
Okay.
So that one's coming out too, but
Sick.
that'll be probably about the end of into August. So yeah, you can find me there.
You can add me on Facebook, You Whole a Tiger. I'm going to go ahead and plug my Uncle John's Facebook. So it'd be John Tiger Artwork on Facebook. Give him a like. Message him if you want to, get something from him, and we'll kick it over to Chris.
Yeah, you can find me at Christopher Honka Hill on Instagram.
And then follow us on Instagram at Unsolved Reservation Mysteries. Follow us on TikTok, Reservation_Mysteries. You could find us everywhere: Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music. And our profiles, just hit the link tree you'll be able to find us. And on YouTube as well. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got the visuals up all the time. Follow us on TikTok. We do a lot of stuff on there. But yeah, stay spooky. Bye.